It's been 17 years since Ubisoft's juggernaut series of Assassin's Creed games first appeared on the humble PC, and since then, a total of 13 big releases have graced our rigs, plus a whole host of offshoots and other Assassin's Creed games. Each one has been developed using Ubisoft's in-house software rather than relying on the likes of Unreal Engine. Along with Snowdrop and Junior, Anvil forms the cornerstone of Ubisoft's biggest games. An awful lot has changed in the world of 3D graphics in the past 2 decades, and for a while, Ubisoft used Assassin's Creed as a model for just how good PC graphics could be. Of course, it's very unfair to compare a game from 2008 to anything in 2023, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or rather, just look back at what each major Assassin's Creed game looked like and describe the big features that the engine or game offered at that time. So, without further ado, let's begin at the very start of the whole Assassin's Creed series. To create the first Assassin's Creed game, Ubisoft Montreal developed its own engine, codenamed Scimitar, with the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 being primary target platforms. The PC version didn't appear until 5 months after the console launch, and could possibly lay claim to 2 world records: the longest ever tutorial sequence and the most unnecessarily complicated procedure for quitting the game. It's fair to say that time has not been kind to the first Assassin's Creed game. The graphics aren't outstanding, even for 2008, though like so many of that era, the excessive bloom and permanent green tinge to the looks don't help. On a modern PC, Assassin's Creed is a janky, buggy affair, but the core gameplay is very much on point. For the sequel, Assassin's Creed 2, Ubisoft upgraded Scimitar, renaming it as Anvil in the process, lifting the sense of realism in the graphics with better lighting and textures, a greater draw distance, and so on. Where cities feel somewhat sparse and repetitive in the first Assassin's Creed game, Renaissance Italy looks considerably more lived in, thanks to the more variable and detailed NPC crowds. More importantly for PC gamers, Assassin's Creed 2 was a much more user-friendly affair when it launched, although it still didn't offer much in the way of graphical extras. Its console origins were still just as evident as before. Ubisoft tweaked Anvil further to continue Ezio's story in Brotherhood, though not to any major extent. Models, textures, and the cloth system are all a little more refined than in Assassin's Creed 2, though the cityscapes aren't any larger. It's perhaps fitting that the final iteration of the original Anvil engine was used to finish Ezio's story in Revelations. Rather than adding new graphical features, Ubisoft Montreal focused on improving gameplay elements, and that's probably because the next major release in the Assassin's Creed series had already been in development for a number of years. Still, at least the hook blade made it far quicker and a lot more fun to whiz about the map. A new main character and a new engine. Well, new as in heavily updated. With the moniker of AnvilNext, Ubisoft software changes introduced basic global illumination, weather systems, and seamless transitions between locations. Despite being developed for the PS3 and Xbox 360, Assassin's Creed 3 sported significantly more world detail than any of its predecessors. One can see this just by looking at the installation sizes on PC. The first Assassin's Creed game tips the scales at a little under 7 GB, with Brotherhood coming in at a little over 9. Assassin's Creed 3, however, is almost 18 GB in size, but that was nothing compared to what was coming next. Possibly the most popular of all Assassin's Creed games, Black Flag was a showcase for AnvilNext's capabilities. Where seas and sailing only formed a small part of gameplay in Assassin's Creed 3, it was the primary feature in Black Flag, and Ubisoft's developers went to town on modelling and rendering the water as realistically as possible. Not that it was perfect when the PC version finally appeared, as ships, waves, and sometimes even the entire ocean would phase in and out of the world like some kind of bizarre quantum effect. Of course, one avoids all that by playing it these days, and you can just enjoy the excellent water effects. That said, despite being developed with the next generation of consoles in mind, i.e. PS4, Xbox One, the lighting is still bloom heavy, and face animations aren't a patch on the character body movements. AnvilNext's last hurrah came in the form of 2014's Assassin's Creed Rogue. Rather than being a DLC expansion like Freedom Cry, which could also be purchased as a standalone game, Rogue was a full game in its own right. However, it did little to advance the graphics or the world of Assassin's Creed, but at least it gave Black Flag fans something else to dig their teeth into. While one can debate whether Black Flag is the best Assassin's Creed game, there's unlikely to be any discussion of which is the most controversial. It's Unity, and by no small margin. What should have been a crowning glory for Ubisoft, thanks to an entirely rewritten engine, AnvilNext 2.0, Unity launched in an utter mess, riddled with bugs, glitches, and game-breaking issues. It's mostly fine now, but still not perfect. However, when it isn't misbehaving, Assassin's Creed Unity can be stunning to behold, even by today's standards, although the short draw distance is quite distracting at times. The one thing that Unity really does right is a sense of scale, as the city of Paris is modelled at close to a 1-to-1 ratio. We are talking about 18th century Paris, of course, but even so, the vast number of NPCs in the crowd and the intricate detail of the city's iconic landmarks, such as the Notre Dame Cathedral, showed just how ambitious Ubisoft had been with upgrading Anvil. While not the final Assassin's Creed game for AnvilNext 2.0, Syndicate was certainly the last of the old-school Assassin's Creeds until Mirage was released in 2023. At least it ran a lot better than Unity at launch, though it was still overly demanding on PCs, and while Victorian London does look very good, it doesn't quite have the same visual impact as Unity does. With Origins, Ubisoft did more than just take the story all the way back to its, well, origins. It changed the very nature of the game from being action stealth to action role-playing, and while that didn't go down well with every Assassin's Creed fan, one certainly can't deny that the sense of scale and scope shown in Origins just begs to be explored. Set in Ptolemaic Egypt, the massively open world is like the history lesson you always wanted at school. AnvilNext 2.0 had been refined and tweaked to support the change in the game's focus, but at a bit of a cost. Assassin's Creed Origins is perhaps the most PC hardware demanding of all the Assassin's Creed games, Valhalla included. Pushing all of the graphics options to their highest value produces spectacular imagery, but less than spectacular frame rates, even on a modern high-end rig. Ubisoft started the development of Odyssey a little after it had finished Syndicate, and it's perhaps the largest Assassin's Creed game it's ever worked on. Not necessarily in terms of the number of developers or the installation size on PC, but just in terms of sheer size of the game's world. In this instance, a significant portion of Greece, circa 4th century BC. Taking everything that worked well in Origins, Unity, and Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is as close to an ancient Greek epic as one could possibly hope for. Not very assassin-like, mind. Despite its vastness, Odyssey runs better than Origins does, and arguably looks better too, though there is only so much one can do to make sound look good. Odyssey clearly wasn't big enough for Ubisoft, and thanks to the continued development of its proprietary engine, now called Ubisoft Anvil, it was time for England and parts of Norway to be given the Assassin's Creed treatment. Arguably the best looking game in the whole series, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a tour de force in traditional rendering techniques. By now, the series was as un-assassin as one could imagine, and stealth took a back seat, several back seats back to be honest, to in-your-face combat. For all its graphical splendour though, Valhalla's England felt generic as a landscape, and the majority of its regions could easily have been set in any part of the world. The game's bugs and glitches were at least a nice throwback to the glory days of Unity. As popular as Valhalla was, and it sold very well, a considerable core of the Assassin's Creed crowd were unhappy with the fact that the game's name no longer meant anything with regards to gameplay. Perhaps as a response, or just to scale things down and make it easier to produce, Mirage was a return to the early days of the Assassin's Creed series. Full-on combat was to be avoided, and stealth was back in. Mirage didn't offer anything more than Valhalla did when it comes to graphics and rendering tech, but given that the game was first developed to be a DLC expansion rather than a standalone game, that's quite understandable. With the release of the next chapter in the long-running Assassin's Creed series almost upon us, it's worth mentioning here. even though one can't play it just yet. Ubisoft has given Anvil a thorough upgrade, with ray-traced global illumination, RTGI, being the most notable inclusion. GI first made an appearance in Unity, and it's been improved in every Assassin's Creed game since, though it's always been pre-baked rather than fully real-time. That's all changed for Shadows, so expect some stunning-looking graphics. The words ray, trace and performance rarely make for a good combination, but Ubisoft assures us that it'll be fine, even on PCs without ray tracing GPUs. To find out if that's the case, subscribe to PC Gamer and click the bell icon to be notified when our full review of Assassin's Creed Shadows drops next week. And make sure you check out our full performance analysis on PCGamer.com.